Hey guys, welcome to the Courier Corner episode 8. I am Freya Emery and I am the EIC. Oh, wow. If you hear some background noise, that is from our live audience because we are filming this live during our second annual reissue event.
We're so excited. Okay, to start off, we're going to be reinstating the land acknowledgement that we gave earlier in the beginning of the event. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge our ancestors. We'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we live and work on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Sea-Salt, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Any CAPU student knows how lucky we are to work and learn on these lands. We cherish the trees we walk through to our classes and the artwork that lines our hallways. It is our job as students to care for the land we work on and to be respectful of its rightful owners. As I said earlier, to contribute, make sure to follow CAPU Indigenous and watch out for all of their upcoming events.
Lovely. Awesome. So to begin the podcast, Avery, what has been some of your favorite moments of the Courier, and kind of give a little recap of you personally working with the Courier this year?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I can hold the mic. Good? Okay. I think for me, my favorite thing has been Nash, and then also I really liked this podcast because it gave me like a level of kind of like being in charge of something, which was really fun, especially seeing two different people leave. It's been very cool.
Yeah. Same here. I think Nash was a huge moment for me. I think it was a lot of fun, and it was really cool to hear everybody after going to Nash about how that was their highlight of their entire university experience. Even if
really
they've like getting their bachelor's and were in school for like 4+ years, that was like 3-day weekend was like their peak moment of their entire university. I thought that was so cool. So yeah, I think that was definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, I think so too. Alrighty. So we have 3 images, I believe. Is that where we're headed next?
Oh yes. So Laura, during our reissue event, we have had a lovely little bulletin board where our beautiful audience have gotten to vote our top 3 images of just random images.
A lot of them are from Nash, a lot of them are from like hotel rooms. There's a lot of like people getting ready, a lot of close-ups of Dylan's face. Yeah,
they're very, very random. So our audience has voted out of a collection of, I don't know how many, there's lots. I think 14?
There's like 14.
Yeah, 14. Their top 3 images. So we're getting those now. Laura is pulling them down from her wall right now.
She's ready.
Come on. Also, sorry if there's background noise. This is an event we're filming at, which is great. So I'll give you this one to give context to.
I
and
knew
we'll
that would
start with that one.
Okay, fine. Okay, am I looking at this one? Thank you. The first image that we're looking at, this is Avery with the can of whipped cream in, might add, a way too short miniskirt for December, I have to be honest with myself, and Dylan's in the background with his massive camera. This one comes from our mini-sode of the podcast, which viewers would know. Yeah, it's adorable. It's a cutie.
The other out-of-context image that I'll be describing about is this one, which is very chaotic for the audience. This is the image that we're referring to. This was during Nash, I think 5 minutes before we had to run down to the gala.
Yeah, you're in your dress, you're
ready
to
go.
go.
I had my makeup done and everything, and I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna give myself a bang trim right now. So in the bathroom, 5 minutes before we have to leave, I'm giving myself a bang trim, which is just chaotic in and of
Looking
itself.
adorable. You're looking adorable.
Thank you. It was needed. But yeah, that was a really chaotic amount. And then the last one is this lovely photo of Dylan. Absolutely chaotic. This was taken on the Uber from Nash.
It's such a good picture.
Such a good photo. This was taken a photo of me holding another phone. I think it was Shell's phone, where there was a photo that we took, a mirror selfie together as a group. I think there was like 4 of us in the photo, and Dylan was just kind of lingering in the background, giving this like blank face as all of us were posing. And then I just zoomed into his face because it was just chaotic and random. So not a whole lot of context given to it other than Dylan just being Dylan. Who Dylan, to give context to if you haven't met yet, is our videographer and video editor. So he is the one behind the camera right now running around.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on to maybe some questions?
Yes. So
Okay.
at the event, we've had some people write little anonymous questions to us. And then also on our Instagram, we had people write in our story some questions. So we have 2 of those. Do we want to start with those first?
These ones?
Yeah, the
Or
digital
those
ones.
Yeah, let's do those.
All right, so the first question we had through our Instagram stories, which is, what is your favorite article?
My favorite article I've ever done, do you think?
It just says your favorite article.
Well, Sophie Serendip, I know. Sophie Serendip wrote me this question. Sophie, do you mean favorite article ever, or do you mean of this year?
For this year. Okay.
So for this year, such a good, awesome question. My favorite article for this year, I don't even think is one I wrote. I think my favorite one that I've written was Reader's Digest. I talked about how that publication is dying. That was really fun. But my favorite one ever is a description of all of the sex shops in Vancouver. It was so fun. It was so much fun to talk about on the podcast. It's a gem. It was a real gem.
You just stole mine.
Ha 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 ha.
So mine was also the list of the favorite sex shops. I think that was so cool. I'm trying to think of another one to come up with. I think that also the women empowerment cover piece of highlighting all the EICs. I mean, I illustrated it, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think it was just so cool to look back at all of the past women that were EICs, and it was just such a beautiful piece. Yeah. All right. The next question that we're going to do is, what is your favorite memory at Capilano University thus far?
My favorite memory at Capilano University thus far, I think I'm biased, and I think it's my time in the dorms, but I'm really grateful for that. That was so fun. And then I think it actually might be partnered with my time at Nash. You know, take me outside of campus, but with a bunch of young people, so fun.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. For context, Avery and I were in the dorms together at the same time. We were like in separate wings of the same floor. Same with Dylan. He was also in the same time as us. And I think that was a great way to build community at such a ripe age, because I was going into my second year, you were going to your first. Yeah. And so we both were just like moving out of home for the first time, and I think it was like such a great way to build your community without really being in that community quite yet. Yeah, it was so fun.
Okay, we're gonna take one more from over here. We have so many from one person. Someone asked us where we get our funding. That's kind of a fun question.
Yeah.
We get our funding from students.
Yes, exactly. So part of your tuition as a student goes towards us. So our issues are free. However, part of your tuition, it goes per credit. So it's different for everybody, but your tuition goes towards our funding. So I think for me, as a full-time student with about 6 classes, I pay about $25 for the Courier, and typically, to give you some perspective about our printing, each issue would typically cost you about $15 for a single issue if we were to charge you. So technically, you guys are getting it free, like girl money, the bestest. So if you see our issues around campus, grab them, grab as many as you'd like, because you are technically paying for them, but you're getting a really good deal.
Yeah, and as people who are at Reissue right now would know, we're seeing a lot of people like collaging with them and like using funny mixed media to like make purpose of things after they've read them. They're really cool. Honestly, they're the best. Yeah,
Totally. Okay, let's do some of the physical. We have 3 more, and then this will be the end of our first segment, and we'll move on to the next segment.
Yeah, this is so weird doing it live.
It's very funny, I know.
Okay, here, actually, I'm gonna give you this one.
All right, so this one, it's a 2-part question. One is for me, one is for Avery. For me, what is Freya's favorite tree? And the second part is, what is Avery's favorite bird?
My guess is that your favorite tree is a fir tree, but that's me listening to who I think you are and really trusting my own instincts. Am I right or am I wrong?
Kind of.
Oh, is it a Douglas fir? Because that's...
No. For me, it's a cedar, because cedars are so versatile and they're beautiful and they smell so good. What about you? So your Douglas fir is your favorite. What's your favorite bird?
Well, you're supposed to guess my favorite
bird. Okay, your favorite bird is a bluebird. A bluebird.
Actually, that might be true. I think my favorite bird is a robin. When I used to go skiing as a little kid, and there was like one time there was a little robin like picking at it was quite cute. Anyway.
Yeah, that's cute.
Okay, dream guest on the podcast, and no limits, alive or dead.
For me, I have 2. So I would say, Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? You say yours first while I look mine up.
My first, okay, we'll give each other 2 each. My first one's probably, I think Joan Didion would be my first, and my second would maybe. Thank you. And my second would probably be, I have no idea. Maybe. I think it might be interesting to talk to Sofia Coppola, but I might get a little bored. I don't know if there would be enough to talk about, but I'd be willing to pursue it.
Can I join in that interview? I would love that.
I know, it could be interesting,
That'd
right?
be so
I would
cool.
mostly, I'd like to ask about her celebrity connections as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
What's your other one?
I forgot the name of Nardwar. So I would love to have Nardwar and Seth Rogen as guest podcast episode.
Would you want like a full hour with Nardwar though? Because I feel like I would want him like out of character. You know, like I just want the real guy. I don't want the silly.
No,
Give me
for
like
sure.
the back to the
I think that would be sick to have both of them side by side as like two like icon Vancouverites, but then like having them completely out of character, but like they have nothing in common other than they're from Vancouver. I think that'd be so cool.
I think so too. Okay, what's your favorite Courier Corner episode? And it doesn't just have to be one that you're on.
That would be kind of rude. I think for me, my favorite one was where we had, I think it was our November podcast episode, so the third one, where we had Eli and Lucy as guests. That was so chaotic and just like everyone was so loose and like broke free of any like discomfort.
I think that one, or what was the last one we did? I've been trying to put that into words too.
That was the women empowerment one with Jade and Bridget. Yeah.
Maybe that one actually, because I think I had. Oh, actually, you know, my favorite was what was the one before that with contributing writers? That one was really fun because I had a really good time talking to both Kirsten and Leah.
Yeah, those were fun. Nice. Okay, I think that's the end of our first segment, and then we're gonna cut cameras and go into our second segment now. Cool. Okay, so for us that was like 5 seconds. For you it was nothing. Welcome to our second segment.
It's probably the same amount of seconds.
I know.
Okay.
So for this podcast, we're going over our most recent issue, which is our Green Future issue. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the issue entails?
Yes, I would love to. So it's not actually super clear with the original photo, but the green issue talks all about environmental affairs. We really get into, I mean, we also talk about things like Paul Dangerfield leaving. This is kind of separate, but really fascinating, honestly. But for the most part, it's everything environmental, everything green friendly. So, yeah.
Totally.
That's kind of what we go into.
Something that is kind of interesting about this topic is that in past years, especially last year, we had the smallest page count that the Courier has ever had. I think we were running around 23 pages average. And then our new average is about 70 plus. So it's the largest issues that we've ever done. However, we have changed our paper. So people here at the reissue event have already heard this. They don't want to hear it again.
They're already excited.
Our new listeners on the podcast, we have been using what is called sugar sheet paper. Unfortunately, in this issue, we don't have the little symbol on it. That's okay. Angelica's saying sorry. It's totally fine. We forgot to add it. But it says that we are using what's called sugar sheet paper for our issues, which is made out of unrefined cane sugar that is recycled. And this is completely biodegradable. It has no harm to trees. No trees were cut down. And so us using this paper has allowed us to save 12 trees and 766 kilograms of CO2 greenhouse emissions. And that's only for, I think, starting in November, in our November issue. So that's, what, 5 issues? 5 issues we've been using this paper, and that's a lot of trees. So we're going to continue to use this paper for all of our issues. So although the issues are thicker and a lot larger, they're actually a lot more environmentally than our past ones. So even though the footprint looks really big, the environmental footprint is a lot less than our past ones.
Yeah. How much of a price difference is it? I feel like I, as well as readers, would be curious about that.
It's surprisingly the same, actually. It's pretty much the same.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
It makes no sense why not to.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Do you think you could see other student publications switching to this type of paper?
I would hope so. I think when we went to NASH this year, I talked to a lot of publications about that and what they did. A lot of publications aren't doing print anymore, though.
I know, a lot of them just fully cut it out, which honestly that makes me really sad.
It does. I think print is such a beautiful thing. And when I got into the Courier, everyone was saying, print's not dead. Print isn't dead. Like, print is still alive. And I was just like, yeah, okay. Sure, whatever. And then now I'm in the industry and I'm working in the print industry. I see it. Print is dying. And so us having these issues and working in these, like this format is integral. And it's like so important because we're keeping it alive.
It's really cool, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I think the coolest part, especially about student publications, is you get the funding to be able to do so. Because, I mean, at some points it's because every student has to pay for it, but it's also, it's because people care about it, which is cool. Yeah. Okay. What does a massive issue entail, though? Having such a huge issue and so many people who work for you and so many contributors, what does that entail?
It's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun. Like, events like this is where I finally get to meet all of our contributors in person for the first time in the entire year of working with them. And seeing all the impact that they're making on these physical issues is absolutely amazing. And so it is a lot of work. It's a lot of people I have to work with, and making sure that all of our editors are getting things on time, proofing everything, making sure everything is grammatically right, in CP style if it's a news. But it's also a lot of fun. It's very relaxed, I noticed, because we are a monthly issue. We're not super hard on our deadlines. We are in some ways, but
it's like one hard day and the rest is like, it's really up to you.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like we have a hard deadline once a week. So as long as you meet that deadline, you're good. You can do whatever you want throughout the week, but that one day, as long as you get it in, you're good. And same goes for like our art direction with Angelica. Like, it's very relaxed. We meet like 3 times a month just to make sure it looks well and right. And it's relaxed, but it is also like, as the EIC, I have to kind of make sure that everything is running smoothly, even if it isn't the day of the deadline. Like, making sure people are still working on it pre the deadline, so that when the deadline comes, it's not like, oh my God, we have to write this piece now. Ah.
Yeah, because it's the worst feeling.
It's the worst.
And I think every single editor and every single illustrator has been there. But it's, especially when you're new and you don't know, like, you can let those deadlines catch up to you, and it can be like the most stressful day of the entire year. It's so bad. Yeah, but
absolutely.
That's why EIC is so important. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Avery, do you want to give a writer shout out potentially to somebody here in the audience who is a writer?
That would be interesting. I'd like to shout out Jasmine, if Jasmine is around. Jasmine, we're giving you a shout out for your AI article that you were telling me about earlier.
Thank you so much for writing.
Go Jasmine, go Jasmine.
Thank you for writing since 2020, a long-time writer. Huge. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Yeah. Do you have an illustrator?
I do. I would like to shout out Andy. Thank you so much for being not only a crew illustrator, illustrating at least 3 pieces an issue, but also managing all of our crew, our contributing illustrators. He is the man that is doing all the things.
Yeah, he's a busy guy.
Hell yeah, we love him.
I don't envy him. That seems like a hard job.
I know, it's a lot. I had it, not fun.
Yeah.
And also, big shout out to all of the other contributors, writers, illustrators who are here tonight. I see all of you. Thank you for all that you do. Hell yes.
Yeah, you guys are so awesome. All right, anything else we want to talk about as we go through our article before we invite up 2 other guests for our final segment of the podcast?
Avery, why did you get into the Courier?
I don't know. I got into the Courier because my history is, I'm a writing major, but my past is primarily in like creative writing, obviously. And I started working in journalism because I wanted to find a way to like make a job out of what I was doing. But this came to me mostly because I started as a contributor, worked my way up, and then last year you hired me. Thank you for doing that. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that's where we're at.
Cool.
Now you tell me.
For me, you guys have heard this story so many goddamn times. I feel bad for repeating this.
It's okay, it's interesting.
But I started out as the Courier. I initially ran for the position as art director, not even before I entered first year. I was still a student in high school, and I was just like, I want to be art director. And they're like, bitch, what? So
little 18-year-old.
hey, I know InDesign. I've done my own coloring book before.
Did
I
you
would've not hired myself back then?
Did you bluff on your resume? Did you lie a little bit about how experienced you were?
I didn't. No. So I was pretty experienced at that time, so I can see why I had like that kind of like, I'm good enough for this. But honestly, no. I think that role specifically is somebody who has a lot of experience, especially in InDesign, and also laying out and art direction and everything. Ideally, it goes to somebody who's in like second or third year of IDEA, not somebody who's still in high school, who
also
even
doesn't
entered
even-
university.
You don't even
yet.
live in Vancouver. You're not
I'm
even.
still in fucking like I'm in the Kootenays. I'm not
You've never-
even in the Lower Mainland.
You've never even seen a physical copy of the issue. You're just like.
I saw their Instagram. I saw they were hiring. I was like,
That was all
"Bet."
you needed to see. Yeah.
So I was an eager beaver. I attended all of their board meetings, even though I didn't get in.
Did you actually?
I did.
I didn't know that about you. You were made to be EIC. Good for you.
I just was so eager. And so that was in 2019, I think, or 2020. And so-
2019?
2019.
I was like a 17-year-old in high school. I hadn't even thought about this. I didn't even know this place existed. That's
Right?
crazy. That's
I
crazy.
know. I was eager. And so then later on, they opened up the position for staff photographer. At that point, I was in second year. And I was like, okay, I'm also a photographer. Why not? So I think there was 4 other people who applied with me. And we went through an extensive interview process. It was like a month long. Very lot.
That feels so different from the interview process you gave me. Like, sorry. I had one meeting and I just like sat on your couch and talked to you about writing and you hired me.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We were desperate at
I
that point.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was pretty much it for me. And then everything else just kind of snowballed where the entire crew left. And then it was just me, Matt, Jade, and Alicia. And then we were like, okay, well, you're the entire art director and the production manager because you're the only art person that's still part of the team. And then everyone else started leaving, and then it was like, okay, editor-in-chief. And I was like, well, okay, sure. And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exciting.
Wild.
Do we want to take a minute to talk a little bit about the positions we have opening up right now, or do you want to wait a bit? Because we have a lot of positions we have to talk about.
We do. So I think the most important one is the board. I know everybody here has been listening to Hassan talk about the board nonstop. Mm-hmm. Is Hassan still here tonight? I think he's around. He'll be right back. Cool. Maybe we'll give him to hop on the podcast and talk about the board. But the board is integral to the Courier and how it runs. These people have heard all about it, so I won't bore you too much. But they manage all of the financial side of the Courier, making sure that it's running properly, making sure that the EIC is actually doing their job. So Hassan will call me nonstop being like, hey, are you actually doing the thing I told you to do? Most of the time it's potentially.
It's like, I thought about it.
But it's good to have that person there because like as EIC, I'm just kind of guesstimating most of the time. So it's nice to have that person that's like ready and there for you.
Yeah, and feels like a real adult, like someone who's not, because I think it's hard when an editor-in-chief is just like ultimately another student, and we're kind of all in the same boat, like we hang out like friends, and yet you're my boss, and so I'm sure it is nice having like someone who's kind of a higher up, like ultimately like running the show.
Totally,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most important one. We're also electing a new EIC, so I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna
Bye,
say
Freya.
bye-bye.
This is your last podcast as EIC, probably last podcast ever, I guess. Yeah.
Holy
We might
fuck.
have you as a guest one day. That would be fun.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we should do that.
New EIC. We'll do EIC elections and board elections because we'll be electing a new board. So that's coming up. Please check our Instagram for that.
Because we really need people to come. It would really suck if we didn't have enough people. It's really awkward. We make people like play Quizlet with us for a really long time until enough people show up. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. We have to meet quorum during those events. We also have our AGM meeting, which happens during the board election and the EIC election, so it's kind of a 3-in-1. But we have to meet quorum for that.
Yeah.
And if
What
you
is
have
quorum?
Quorum is essentially a certain number of people for like an election or a meeting to actually happen.
And how many people do we need, do you think?
I think it depends on the election. So for the EIC election, only special voting members can vote and join the election, which means only current contributors or people who have contributed in the past year, along with crew members, can vote. So any of you here that are a contributor, you can vote for the next EIC and for the next board. I think for the board, Hassan is perfect for this. Hassan, do you want to talk about the requirements to vote for EIC and for the board? Because I know it's special voting members only for EIC. For the board, is it just members? Also, welcome Hassan Morali, the chair of our board. Woo!
Hello, hello.
Oh, nice, another mic.
Can I just sit here? Do I just sit there?
You're fine.
Yeah, you can pull up that poof.
Pull up the poof.
Pull up the poof.
Get the poof.
There we go. We'll use the wide angle.
Yeah,
lens
you can
for
be in
this.
the fisheye. You can be in the fisheye. Your eyes are gonna look huge in here.
There you go. Yeah.
Hello. Sorry? Okay, hey. My name is Hassan Morali. I'm the chair of the board of directors of the Capilano Courier Publishing Society. And I think the question was, what's the story behind this picture?
We've already covered that.
So if you want to vote for the next editor-in-chief of the Capilano Courier, you have to have contributed to the Courier at least 3 times, either artwork or print, in the last year. If you want to vote for the board of directors, you just have to be a member of the Capilano Courier Publishing Society, which is pretty much every student on campus. If you pay the Capilano Courier fees as part of your tuition, you're a member. So when we have those elections, please come out. And if you're not sure if you qualify, come anyways, and we'll determine that.
Yep, exactly. If you're unsure, please just come anyways. We will be posting on our social media about that really, really soon. So check all our social media platforms, especially Instagram, because we post there the most. So dates are still TBD. We're thinking sometime early May, but please check that out. We must meet quorum. Thank you so much, Hassan. We must make quorum.
Thank you. You can just put it on.
Avery.
Leave. Oh, mini skirt candy cane Avery's gonna haunt me
How about
forever.
this, Hassan?
Yeah. What about that one? Yeah. Okay, perfect. That was really interesting. Oh, and also then for some of the positions that maybe some of these people could be applying for.
Yeah.
We've got some really interesting positions. So I'm trying to think of what ones are available right now because we're kind of doing a swap.
Yes, ones that are really crucial is our video team. So if you are a videographer, not me making eye direct with a videographer.
If someone's interested, I don't know.
Somebody is interested in videography. Job applications are technically unopen, but for this position, they're open.
Yeah.
For videography and video editor. So if you are ideally a MOPA student, most likely.
Someone with like a lot of experience would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody who has experience film editing, definitely send over your resume, cover letter, maybe if you have a website, or even just like some videos that you have done to send over. That is something that we were definitely hiring and looking into for next year. Another one is...
We're changing a lot of our editors. We've got we need a new news editor really bad because the lovely
Badly.
Bridget is leaving us, which
We
sucks.
love you, Bridget.
Somebody picked CBC over the Capilano Courier for some reason. Weird.
Yes. We're open to multiple news editors as well. I think that's most ideal, is having at least 2 news editors. So I know it's not the most desired section.
It's really fun.
It's
Okay?
really fun.
You
So
get a
we
lot
are
of
looking
dirt.
for news.
Yeah, you get a lot
Yes.
of like dirt on people, especially the election. There was a lot of interesting stuff that happened there.
Yes.
You need, honestly, it's kind of cool.
It's
kind
really
of a fun
cool.
position.
So that's a big one that we're not electing. We don't need to go through election. It's just a hiring process. And then the last 2 that I will mention before we wrap up for the segment is a new crew illustrator. We're hiring 2 new ones, and also crew writers. Hi, Cameron. I'm making eye contact with you. I see you. So crew illustrator and crew writer. We're getting 2 new ones. This is a new decision that we've made this year, is that every year we'll I keep saying election. Oh my God. We'll hire in a new group of crew writers and crew illustrators every year. We'll do a little switcheroo. So yeah, that's a new 2 positions for each.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
And if you guys have been illustrating with us already, you probably kind of know the style we like. It wouldn't be that hard to get this position. I'm not going to lie to you. So definitely apply. Definitely apply. Yeah.
Sweet.
Very cool. Any other ones? I think we're switching out a lot of editors, but just keep a lookout on our stuff.
Keep your eyes out. We're hiring a lot of new ones next year.
We hire and we pay really well. So come
as
work
you all
for
know.
us. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Next segment.
Yeah, we're gonna do a break. Okay. Cool.
And this will be our last one.
And we're back.
And we're back.
Thank you. Okay, if my hiccups will not get in the way, I'm gonna ask you. Okay, in your time as EIC, now that this is the end of your journey, of your long journey to finally becoming EIC, what did you learn this year? What did you learn this year that you definitely want to apply for next year as much as you can?
I would love to apply a newsletter for the Courier. A weekly or at least a bi-weekly newsletter that is sent out to ideally all of Vancouver. Oh my God. That's a goal.
Maybe one day.
One day. All of Capilano University's students. I think that is a great way to send out fast and important news. With the Courier, our issues come in a little bit late into the season, so hot news is kind of a little bit funny since we're already working on the issue a month ahead. So we can't really send out like hot, fast news really easily. So if we do a weekly newsletter, I think that's a great solution on sending like really hot and important news, especially if we have like another issue with slating with the election. Then knock on wood. But, that's a great solution to produce like hot, fast news and send it out to people who need it really quickly.
Yeah, so true. Well, because we found, we took back our Twitter during the election season as a way to kind of do the same thing. We also, we were very active on Instagram and things like that promoting the election, but it was really the first experience we had this year, at least with getting news out really fast. That was really necessary. And so I think a newsletter would be good, especially one that comes right to students' emails. Like you just open it like you open anything else.
Yeah.
Because I think our goal for next year has to be getting this news quicker and also getting a little bit closer to our student body. Because we're there, but because of that month difference, we're pretty far apart. It's pretty formal. It'd be nice to really get face to face with them.
Exactly. Yeah. We were also considering switching up our podcast to a bi-weekly podcast where we use it more as a news source podcast. So less arts and culture where we're just goofing off talking about America's Next Top Model.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll also do that. Sorry.
We probably will still fit it in somehow.
Yeah.
But using our platform that's already there as a way for us to get into get to students a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think we were thinking about maybe once a week or something. You have the Friday briefing from the Capilano Courier. It's 5 different things, 5 pressing topics that we'd like to share with you that you feel like you should know as a student. And then once a month, I'm sure we'll still giggle and gabble because that's what we do.
Totally. It's an hour long of us just fucking around.
Seriously, yeah, with guests usually.
Yeah. What about you, Avery? What are some things that you would like that you've learned this year but you want to bring into next year?
I think especially thinking about the idea of applying to be an EIC next year, and I mean it's hard for sure, but I think one thing I've been thinking of is, I had mentioned a second ago, but really making sure that students first of all know who we are, but know why they should care about us, because I think we're kind of hidden in the shadows, as you would know from where our office is. It's really hard to find us. You see us, but I don't really think there's a big reason for people to care. But I think the election was a really good example of why people started to, but more so, I want to see students getting involved and getting, seeing us as something that is as integral to them as checking CBC or checking CTV for regular news, because really knowing what's going on in your student body is so important if you want to be on campus. It's really important.
I agree. Yeah, I think we've been treating the Courier in the past couple of years as a way to showcase art, which you can see in some of our issues.
We're obviously very good at it.
We're very good at it.
Freya's really good at it, yeah.
Thank you. And the students around us are very artistic. We're at a university that is art heavy. So obviously we're going to center towards more the artistic side of the university. But I think something that we've lost along the way is definitely presenting heavy, hot topic news that is important and relevant. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I think especially during our time at Nash, it was interesting seeing, comparing ourselves to so many different publications. Try as you might, when you're face to face with other people who are doing the same job as you, it's really hard not to compare our work to theirs. We got a lot of praise on our artwork, which was awesome to hear. We won an award for one of our artworks, which was so cool. That was so cool. But one of the biggest things I noticed was talking to other people and hearing about the awards that they were winning for their things. It was just a little bit it was really something that you need to read in order to be involved in the student body, and that would be cool. Yeah.
Speaking of hot, relevant news, I would love to bring to the stage Bridget and Gurpreet. Would you guys be interested in talking a little bit about journalism and CBC? Pause for a minute as they come on stage.
Totally.
Woo! Give a round of applause.
Yeah.
All right, take one of those seats, whichever one you guys are liking. And then we're just gonna cut to the wide angle lens, the fisheye. It's gonna look a little bit funky, but that's our style. So, do you guys wanna introduce yourselves, give a little bit of background of who you are, just to get started?
Yeah. So I'm Bridget. I'm the news editor. You've probably seen me on the podcast before. I studied communications at CAP, and then I went to UBC, and I'm in my Master of Journalism now.
Cool, awesome.
And I'm Gurpreet. I was formerly a news editor at the Courier, and I work for CBC Vancouver as a producer on their current affairs radio shows.
Awesome.
Very
That's
cool.
super cool. You go.
It's the best part of having two different people on here. So when we had you up for the reissue event, which obviously viewers wouldn't know, you talked to us a lot about what the Courier was like back then and a little bit about what it's like being in the industry now. For both of you, could you maybe talk a little bit about the transition between from student journalist to actual journalist? I think that's quite daunting to a lot of student journalists. What was that like?
Yeah, excuse me. Absolutely, my start in journalism was at the Courier, right? And I wouldn't be in journalism now if I hadn't started there. Like, that was really where that seed was planted for me. How I actually got into the CBC was that I transferred to SFU into their communications program, where there's a internship for students that happens called the Peter Zosky internship. So I think it might be similar to the one that Bridget is doing. I made a push to sort of bring unique, original ideas onto the radio, and I guess they must have liked a little bit of what I was doing, but they asked me to stick around, and it's been a great experience for me since then.
Yeah, I also got my start at the Courier. In high school, I did a little bit of radio, and I had a TV show, but it was in a really small town, so basically they said we need someone who speaks a language other than English. And I was like, I'll do it. So technically I had my own TV show, but I came to CAP and didn't plan to do journalism. I was going to transfer to SFU and finish my communications degree there, but I got involved with the paper. And yeah, I got an internship, and I just sort of kept going in journalism, got into UBC because of pieces I wrote for the Courier.
That's super, super cool. Nice. And for the two of you, as somebody who has both worked for the Courier in the past and also present, any advice for student newspapers that, depending on size, small or large, both, any advice for students who are wanting to get into news? It might be seen as a daunting subject. What are some advice that you can give to new students who are wanting to get into it?
Yeah, I would say just come write for us. We come up with pitches, so you don't even have to come up with the idea at first. We have the pitches, we have the sources. All you have to do is come talk to, it won't be me anymore, but just come talk to the news editor. That's how I got started. I got started in arts and culture, actually. But then I saw a news article that was really interesting to me, and I wrote it, and I just kept going back. It took me a while to actually get my own ideas. I think if I was thinking I had to come in and have this perfect news article, all these sources, then I probably wouldn't have done it, right? But yeah, but we send out the pitch lists, right? So people just have to find something that's interesting to them, and then, yeah.
Do you mean as a career, or for students to come out and write for the student paper?
I think for students who are interested or curious about news in general, who might not currently be an active writer in the news section, but are curious about it, and maybe just a little promotion about news section especially.
News especially, yeah. I mean, there's so much to learn, especially for people who want to get into writing, about different styles of writing. And I'm sure news is the hardest section to get writers for, right? But I think there's a lot of skills that you can learn from writing for the news section, right? And I think there's a particular style that you will sort of gain skills at in writing in, but also researching and interviewing is its own thing. And if someone wants to be a writer, that's a really great place to learn, right? What else should I? Yeah, I think it was such a great experience for me. It was really where I got started.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What about, I think we talked a little bit about this idea that print is dying, and I think we talk about it every time we talk about journalism, because it's one of those things you can't avoid. do you guys maybe have any takes on that subject? I mean, I'm sure working in the industry, you know it's hard to find jobs, and you know, I think all of us kind of know how hard it is to see a future in it, but being in it now, do you feel like there's a big future for journalism that's maybe changing, or where do you see journalism going in the future if traditional print, like the way we do it, really isn't as successful as it used to be?
That's a tough question.
I thought so.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in journalism too long, but I've noticed that, like, I still love print. I still read print newspapers. Like, I think a lot of people, even at the Courier, right? If it's online, it's great. But when people like open the page and they see their name, they see an illustration, I think it's still something that people really like and appreciate. Like, maybe my parents aren't the best example because they're a bit older, but like when I got the CBC Donaldson, I'd already put it all over social media so that anyone ever that Googled me would see it. But my mom immediately said, we need to contact the Coast Reporter. We need to like get this in print so people know about it. I think it's still the way that a lot of people find out about things. And there's just so much information online. If you open like a paper or the Courier, there's like a finite amount of information. People will usually, like, at least in my experience, go through the whole thing. But online, there's just endless articles, right? So I think there's still like a lot of value in print that comes to people's doors. Like, I still get subscriptions that come to my mailbox. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%, and I think to talk about student newspapers in particular, it's really important. You know, I love what student newspapers do, and like nobody else is going to do that kind of journalism that the news section, right, of a student newspaper is going to do. So, but also like when I'm on campus, and I went to SFU as well, right? Like I only read the newspaper in print, right? Because it's like I'm on campus, I'm on that community. If I was going for like lunch, I would have a copy of the Courier or the Peak or whatever with me, right? So to me, like the life of a student publication is more in print than online, in my opinion, right? Because it's part of building that campus community. But also, like print in general, I think it's such a different thing to have that piece of paper in your hand when you're reading it. I don't know, to me that's a part of building community that just doesn't happen when you're accessing a website, right?
Yeah.
So.
I agree. It's like a physical thing that is maybe easier to consume in some way because it's right there, physically there for you, and you don't have to search for it. Like Bridget said, endless scrolling of constant articles.
Yeah, it makes me think of like the online shopping versus shopping in person idea that, yeah, I mean, as much as it's exciting to look at, say, like a publication with so many articles and anything you could ever want to write, they've written. But I don't know, there's something that makes me feel like reading is so much more important when it's right in front of my face, and I can, first of all, tell so many people put time into putting it there. I don't know, it adds a little special element.
Yeah. And last question to wrap it up with you two. What advice would you give to publications like us that are wanting to elevate our news section and reinvent it to make it seem a little bit more eye-catching? Any advice for us and maybe other student publications like us for our news section specifically? Just ways to catch students' eyes a little bit more, or maybe some things that you've seen in the field that are maybe new ways that they have integrated into their publication already, that are maybe a little bit new to engage their audience, essentially.
I think sometimes, especially with the news section, right, the idea of engaging your audience is like, can be like a bit of a trap to fall into that you don't necessarily want to, right? Like it's important, but like maybe not always the end goal, right? And I think the reason is, 100%, like that fewer people are going to read the news section than, like whatever your opinions or your features, right? Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't mean it's still just as important, because you're still like creating a public body of work that's holding your people accountable, right? Like your elected officials in the student union or the Senate or whatever. So like I knew not that many people were reading the news section, but even then, the people we were sort of interviewing that were, the president of the student union or whatever, they still cared about what we wrote about them, right? And it still changed things. So it was still a public record of things that were happening, and it still mattered.
Love that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have as much insight because I am the news editor right now.
Right.
So if I had a great idea, you would know. Yeah, but I think just like consistent coverage of what's going on. Like I really wanted the news section to be where people go to find information about things that are happening, about like even with the elections, right? I think we amped up our coverage and made sure that all of the new decisions, like they were updated in an online article, they were on Twitter, they were on Instagram right away. I think the Courier, it's great that it's the place that people are going for news because like, yeah, as you said, there might not be other people that are covering that.
Yeah, so true. And I like what you said because I think we do see a lot of publications in like the larger landscape of journalism going into kind of clickbait news, and it can be really hard not to in the age of the internet. But I do feel really happy to know that I can confidently say the Courier's, maybe back then, but definitely not right now. There's not like cheap clickbait journalism that we're pumping out. I think everything feels really earnest, even if it means we're getting less readers. It's people are really reading what they should be reading, not just like fluffy,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a big thanks to you, Bridget.
Thanks, Bridget.
You're keeping us real. It's good. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
us on the podcast. Cool. Awesome. Okay. And then next. Perfect. Do it, yes. Grab all the food you'd like. Alrighty. What? Oh. We're still filming, Dylan. We're still filming. We're closing out the podcast now. So, we've already done that.
I think just closing statements, I feel like.
Clothing statements.
Just a little maybe goodbye to Freya, the sweet Freya who's leaving us and is going to make me sad because you're the best. But I think very great first year of the podcast, I can say.
Yeah.
I'm biased for sure because I'm the co-host, but I think it's awesome. And I'm excited to see what we do with it next year. I think it's going to be a little bit weird shifting this into maybe like a little bit more serious mixed with this or whatever we end up doing. But as with any year of the Courier, things are going to change, and I'm just excited to see what we do next.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to be obviously watching from afar.
Mostly on Zoom calls,
Nova
yeah.
Scotia. Afar. But yeah, it's been a blast here. It's been so cool to co-host with you and just to work with you in general. And everyone here who has contributed or been a crew member, it's been an honor and a privilege. I'm going to miss this. This is like probably... Sorry to my partner, Terrell, but this is one of the biggest parts of my life.
Sorry, Terrell.
Sorry, Terrell. I put a lot of energy into this, more than I probably should. Yeah, it's going to be weird not having the Courier in my life, but I think it's also kind of important because you have to set boundaries with work sometimes.
You got to move on eventually to the next big
Gotta
thing.
move on, yeah.
Can you tell us what you're doing next? Because I know, obviously, but can you tell our lovely viewers?
I will be moving to Nova Scotia in late fall of this year, just for a change of pace. I know. Everyone keeps asking me why, and I don't know, obviously, other than just a change of pace and making new connections in a new community.
And for love, yeah.
And for love, because I'm like, my partner's moving, so why not?
Yeah. We're so excited for you, Freya. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Closing up the pod.
Oh my God. I'll see you. Well, you'll see them
Yeah.
in September.
I'll see you next year, probably for the entire year, because you can't really get rid of me, but you can.
Avery's sticking around. Avery's the new Freya.
Yeah. We don't know.
We don't know.
I'm here for
No.
sure.
The election won't be rigged. We
I
promise.
don't know, guys. I will
But
definitely. I'll be this guy forever.
Oh yeah, no. You'll be podcast bro.
Yeah, probably with Gwen when Gwen finally gets back
Yes.
from Amsterdam. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gwen and Avery back at it.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
Okay.
All right. Signing
Lovely.
out.
Bye, guys.